The first broadcast crackled over the old transistor radio just after 2 a.m., slicing through the silent, snow-buried dread of Blackwater, Montana. The voice was a flat, digital monotone, a ghost in the machine. Mitch Henderson, the old sawmill, arson. Sheriff Ben Walker, a mountain of a man with PTSD for a shadow, was already awake, cleaning his service revolver for the third time that night. He scoffed. The old sawmill was a heap of rot. Kids, probably. But by dawn, it was a blackened scar on the white landscape, still smoldering. Exactly as described. The second night, the voice returned. Sarah Jenkins. Her porch. Vandalism. Sarah, the postmaster, found her prized ceramic gnomes smashed to dust, a single, ominous letter nailed to her door. The letter didn't predict the crime. It promised it. The language was precise, clinical, and deeply unsettling. Ben felt the walls of his remote sanctuary closing in. He'd come to Blackwater to get away from the noise, from the memories of IEDs and the things men scream in the dark. This was a whole new brand of psychological warfare. He needed help. The only person in town who understood signals better than static was a 17-year-old goth girl named Chloe who ran a pirate radio show from her garage. She called it The Crypt. "It's a deep fake, Sheriff," she said, not looking up from her spectrum analyzer. Her fingers, tipped with chipped black polish, flew across a keyboard. An AI voice clone. A damn good one. A what? Ben felt 100 years old. Someone's trained an algorithm on your voice. Probably scooped up your old press conferences from online. This is pre-recorded. The signal's bouncing all over the damn mountain. Tracing it is a total shitshow. The next prediction was worse. Old Man Hemlock. His shed. Assault. Old Man Hemlock was found locked in his own tool shed, babbling about whispers in the walls. He wasn't hurt, just terrified. And another letter was in his mailbox. That's when Ben brought in Elias Crow. Crow was a walking ghost himself, a retired forensic linguist who'd written the book on threat assessment before a case went sideways and left him hollowed out. He lived in a cabin on the edge of town, trying to drink away the echoes of other people's words. Ben slid the letters across Crow's dusty kitchen table. "The broadcast says what's gonna happen. These letters say why. I need to know who's writing them." Crow's hands, tremulous from whiskey, stilled as he touched the paper. His eyes, bleary and bloodshot, sharpened. "This isn't a rant. This is profiling. The word choice, it's not predicting behavior. It's scripting it. This person knows exactly what buttons to push. They're using fear as a catalyst." The town, cut off from the world by the blizzard and a downed internet line, was fracturing. Paranoia was a virus. People heard things in the wind, saw figures in the snow. The broadcasts kept coming, each crime a little worse, each letter a little more personal. The break came when a flash flood of snowmelt from a sudden thaw eroded a creek bank near the town's derelict railway station, a relic from a failed mining boom. Exposed in the mud was a splintered wooden crate, and inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was a journal. It wasn't a British officer's. It was the ledger of the town's founding father, Silas Blackwater. Chloe, hacking into the town's historical society records, found the match. The voice on the broadcast, "Sheriff, it's not just a clone of you. It's a hybrid. Your vocal patterns, but the linguistic database, it's pulling from this journal." Crow, his face pale, translated the spidery script. "It's not a treasure map, it's a confession. Silas and the original town fathers didn't just strike silver. They massacred a group of settlers who had a legitimate claim to the land and looted their possessions. The Blackwater fortune is built on a mass grave." The next broadcast was the worst yet. The hybrid voice, Ben's, but somehow colder, older, echoed through the valley. "Chloe Kovac. The Radio Shack. A sacrifice." Ben's blood ran cold. He grabbed his shotgun and ran into the blizzard, heading for Chloe's garage. He burst in to find her safe, huddled over her equipment. "I got it," she yelled, triumph cutting through her fear. "The signal's not coming from the mountain. It's coming from under us. The entire town is a goddamn antenna." Crow arrived, breathless, clutching the journal. His professional detachment had shattered into raw horror. The architecture. Silas was paranoid. He built a listening network. Copper wires woven into the foundations, connected to vents and grates. It all feeds to a central control room. He could hear everything in every house. A surveillance system under the floorboards. The killer wasn't using the system to listen. They were using it to speak, to whisper. Old Man Hemlock wasn't crazy, Crow breathed. He heard whispers in his walls. The killer used the system to whisper to him, to stoke his paranoia, to make him a pawn. They're not predicting crimes. They're directing the play, using the journal's language and the town's own secrets to turn everyone against each other. They're making the town haunt itself. They raced through the whiteout streets, following Chloe, traced signal to its source, the town's historic church. In the basement, behind a false wall, was Silas Blackwater's original control room. It was a monstrous thing of brass pipes, copper wires, and a giant, hand-cranked transmitter. But grafted onto this antique machinery was a sleek, modern laptop, its screen glowing. And standing before it was Liam, the mild-mannered town historian. He didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied. "It's not about the treasure," Liam said, his voice calm. On the laptop screen, an AI interface built a new broadcast using the hybrid voice model. "The treasure's long gone. It's about the ledger. About the truth. My family's name was on the list of the murdered settlers." Silas Blackwater wiped us from history. He wasn't trying to expose the truth. He was trying to bury it forever. The powerful families in this town, the Hendersons, the Jenkins, the Hemlocks, they're all descendants of the murderers. Their wealth, their legacy, is built on my family's bones. If this came out, it would destroy the town. There'd be lawsuits, historical audits, a media feeding frenzy. We'd become a freak show. This town is all I have left. He gestured to the machinery. So I gave it a ghost. Used Silas's own system against his children. The AI learned from the journal, from old records, from the sheriff's public statements. The letters, the whispers, they were designed to trigger specific, predictable reactions. I knew Mitch Henderson's pride would make him check the sawmill if he thought it was threatened, giving me time to plant accelerants. I knew Sarah Jenkins's fear would make her lock herself in, allowing me to vandalize her porch. I needed to create a pattern so terrifying, so unsolvable, that when the final act played out, no one would question it. On the screen, the AI finalized its last message. Sheriff Ben Walker, the church, murder. The unstable, traumatized war vet, Liam explained, almost apologetically. Driven mad by the pressure, commits a final, desperate act of violence before turning the gun on himself. A tragedy. The case closes. And the secret of Blackwater's founding dies with you, Sheriff. The town remains. Purged, but intact. Ben raised his shotgun, but Liam was faster, slamming his hand on a switch. The ancient transmitter hummed to life, and a low, subaudible frequency began to pulse through the copper wires under the town, a frequency designed to induce primal fear, to push people into a blind panic. Outside, the town descended into absolute bedlam. The final scare had begun. But Liam hadn't accounted for Chloe. While Ben kept him talking, she had plugged a thumb drive into his laptop. "Voice clone this, you son of a bitch," she muttered, her fingers flying. The church's PA system, still hooked into the ancient network, crackled. But instead of the hybrid monster voice, it was Chloe's voice, clear and furious, echoing through the streets, cutting through the subliminal terror. "Everyone, listen up. It's a scam. The whispers are lies. The killer is in the church basement. It's Liam. He's trying to cover up a massacre." Liam roared and lunged for her, but Ben was on him, tackling him into a rack of sputtering vacuum tubes. The fight was short, brutal, and final. The old machinery sparked and died. An hour later, Ben stood on the church steps, watching the townspeople, dazed and ashamed, emerge from their homes. The blizzard was easing. The ghost had been exorcised. Back in the basement, Crow carefully collected the journal. The truth was out. The healing, for the town and for himself, would be a long and painful road. He had spent his life analyzing the words of monsters, and he had found one here, not in the words themselves, but in the terrible, human need to control them. The voices under the floorboards were silent, but the echo of what they had said, and the terrible deeds they had orchestrated, would linger in Blackwater forever. The horror wasn't in the technology or the old bones. It was in the cold, calculated decision to tear a town apart to save it, a choice made not by a monster, but by a man who thought he was its savior.